What is up, everybody? Bobby here, the Nintendo Guru. It's a little bit different than our normal video. This time, rather than the normal Nintendo talk, I figured what better thing to do than to debate. And I wanted to debate the topic of Zelda versus Mario, Game of the Year. Who wins? Let's go. So what's up, everybody? Again, Bobby here, Nintendo Guru. Wanted to do this a little differently, and I thought, who better to debate than myself versus myself? So we're gonna do something a little different today. Hopefully this all works out. If it does, we might see more of this in the future, but let's see how this all works out, shall we? So here we go. Bobby, take it away. So we're going to debate this, right? This is a cool thing. This is going to be different. I don't know if this dude is ready to debate me. I'm going to be honest with you because I'm going to break him down right about now. When we look at the Metacritic, yes, Mario scored the same as Zelda with a 97, but we had more people critique us than Mario did. Like, there's no debate that Zelda had more people and still pulled a 97. Like, pick up those other five, you know, judgmental reviews and see what happens. I think it goes down at the end of the day. Like, definitely hands-on, Zelda wins it all. I mean, look, yes, in the Metacritics, like, we had less votes, you know, on it when you break it down. Like, we had less reviews, but people cried about the way that reviewers were handling, you know, Breath of the Wild. Maybe Nintendo didn't give out the games that they wanted to because they didn't want to upset all the fanboys that this guy brought along. So I don't know. Like, seriously, it's only 5. They're probably, what if they're all 10s? Which we've got so many 10s. It would have pushed us over the top. We reigned supreme for such a long time. I don't want to hear the nonsense. We are highly reviewed, amazingness through the roof. So I want to discuss some pros about Zelda, all right? Let's look at this. Like, the art style is gorgeous. It looks like a watercolor painting. You know, I've said it before, I'll say it again, like that opening scene, that cinematic, when you come out of the cave and you hit the cliff and you look out around the world, it just looks amazing. Like, it is a gorgeous thing, and I can't imagine not being a part of that and not, you know, realizing how great this world is and how vast this world is. It's a magnificent thing, hands down. I mean, let's talk pros, shall we? If you really want to get into the pros. Spot on controls. There's no controls like a Mario game. And this game controls like every other Mario game, if not better. The camera angles are perfect. Everything is seamless and just moves fluidly. Like, this dude can't even jump compared to us. Like, we jump supremely well. Like, Mario, no control, no mechanic is quite right like a jump in Mario, and we handle it seamlessly. Power-ups. We had no power-ups in this game except for Cappy, a new dynamic that changed the flow and the course of history because it's probably one of the greatest power-ups that ended up being in the game. That is one of the coolest mechanics in this game is Cappy. The fact that you throw the hat and it takes control of something or someone. So amazing. Like, I love Cappy. I thought Cappy was so cool to have in this game. The gameplay. I mean, the fact that the controls are so fluid and so quick and you can do things on the fly and everything's kind of just, it's seamless. You know what I mean? Like, there's no breaks. Like, you go into a building, you continue to go in the building. You don't break and cut scenes and all that, and you don't have any of that, like, that divide. Like, everything's just fluid, open world. It's really cool. The fact that we added climbing to it is just really phenomenal. I mean, the fact that you can climb over anything and go up anything, that's huge. That's something that's never been done in a Zelda game before. Hence, might I even add, like, a lot of open world games, you don't have that mechanic. So this is kind of cool, and I'm glad that we have this in the gameplay now. For me, the biggest pro of it all is that Nintendo was able to take the open world genre, flip it upside down on its ear, and just go, this is the new way to do open world games. You look at huge open world games like Skyrim and Fallout and Assassin's Creed and all these games that come out that are open world, and there's nothing but glitches and problems and all that. Nintendo axed that. There was none of that in Breath of the Wild. It was a fluid game and just flowed completely beginning to end. there was the slowdown that you had occasionally, but within a week or two, Nintendo fixed that. That was the only major glitch within the game. Like, everything else was perfection and just ran to perfection. There's something to be said about that. That is a huge feat that not many game companies can discuss or talk about or even imagine to come close to doing. The open world feel in a lot of the levels was fresh and new, and it changed the dynamic of the game just as much as Cappy did. And I felt like they really did a good job of making you feel like it wasn't a linear gameplay or anything like that. Like, it opened up like no other Mario game has ever done in the past. That was huge, and to me, it was just great stuff. If I'm not denying myself, I feel like we did some amazing things with that open world feel. You know, like this guy, he got blamed for not having enough life in his open world. Our levels were very full of life, and there was a lot of stuff and danger coming from all over the corners of everything. So I personally loved the open world feel of a lot of the levels. And for me, the final thing was the voice acting. They brought voice acting into the fold finally. We had huge cutscenes, cinematic, emotion gripping parts. Like, it was huge. And then if you didn't want to listen to your particular country, you could open it up and listen to different countries and different regions. I feel like that's a huge, big plus in my book. So when Breath of the Wild ends, you end, and that's it. Like, the game's over. Like, it's done. Like, you can go back, but you go back pre-death of Ganon. With us, when Bowser's down and Bowser's out for the count, like, the game keeps going. Like, there's more content beyond the roll of the credits. Like, that has to be something that's never been done in most video games. It's something, a new dynamic that just changes the flow and the feel as you go back to the levels. It's amazing. Like, that is such a huge thing that a lot of people look over and don't take into account. That whole endgame thing is just awesome. And we unlock more stuff in the endgame. That's something that is huge and truly can't be taken lightly in any of this. Let's talk about some cons and we don't want to admit that we're at fault here, right? So the cons of Super Mario Odyssey, simply put, as most Mario games, the storyline was okay. It was a lot of the same. We captured a princess, we take her off, Bowser does what he does and all that. Like, it was just a lot of the same old and nothing new and inspiring within it all. I mean, come on, you want to talk about cons? Breath of the Wild, one of the most frustrating and infuriating things in all the game is how quickly and easily the weapons break. I mean, like, even the Master Sword, you finally get the Master Sword and you're thinking, like, I got this. Now it's time to rock and roll, and guess what? Doesn't work out. The thing loses power after so many, after a few hits or whatever, and it's like, it's frustrating. You gotta wait 10 minutes to regain power and all that. Like, I feel like it's such a missed opportunity that when you get the Master Sword, you don't feel like this overpowered god like you should. And it's just crazy to think that that's such a lacking thing within this game. So a lot of complaints that reviewers have was how easily weapons break and fall apart. So I don't know. For me, the boss fights were just not that inspired. They were repetitive. You fought a lot of the same bosses over and over and over again. And they weren't that difficult. Seriously, at the end of the day, like, it just felt like, this isn't the big all be all that a Mario game is. Typically, Mario games, they change it up. It's different mechanics. You're picking stuff up. There was a couple amazing boss fights. Just fell flat at the end of the day when it all came down to the end of the day. Just wasn't the best. I mean, let's be honest. Some of the features in this game should have been there from the beginning. Like the DLC pack that comes in, a lot of that stuff should have been there day one. Like the tracking of the steps, the hard mode, you have to actually pay for a hard mode. Like, come on, that makes no sense. And like the Kurok mask, which would have helped you find all them stupid seeds, that wasn't unlocked until you paid for it. And like, there's so much stuff that was in the DLC that should have been in the main game. And I just don't understand how people can take that lightly and just think that like that's not a misstep. That's a huge misstep in the grand scheme of things. So there's the points, the counterpoints, and all that stuff. For me, let's just come down to the final verdict. And the final verdict for me, and this is strictly myself speaking, I feel like Zelda is the game of the year when it comes to these two games. Simply put, there was so much more to do in Zelda. For me personally, I put 160 something hours in. I didn't even touch Ganon until I was approximately 50 hours in. With Mario, I was well into 9 hours, and I went after Bowser and rolled credits, per se. When Zelda was done, again, I was about 50 hours in, but when I rolled credits in Zelda, well, guess what, man? I rolled them, and I was done another 60, 70, 80 hours that I put into this game. I ended off with another 100 hours when it was done. The DLC just added more to it, but I mean, if we're talking original games, still 160 hours for the original game, that's just nuts. There was so much stuff in it. Where Mario, I felt like it was a lot of fluff. I felt like they threw some stuff in there, like all those moons I didn't feel like needed to be in there. I felt like it kind of like Korok seed hunting, where it just wasn't the big draw for me, and eventually I just grew tired of it and walked away from the game. Where with Zelda, I didn't have to mess with Korok seeds. There was so much other stuff to do, so many other elements to that game, where Mario, as great as a Mario game it is, and that could be in contention of, is it the best Mario game of all time? Well, that's another story, and another debate we'll have at a later date. But for me, like, that's the debate, not Game of the Year. For me, it's hands down Zelda. There's no way that Zelda can't win. It did way too many things and changed the dynamics of open world games for a lot of companies in the future. This will be the game that a lot of open world games in the future get compared against. And that's saying something. When you're able to take a genre that's been out for a long period of time and have people discuss it now, like this is a real thing, you've changed the game for a very long time. So that said, that is all. Thank you guys for watching today's debate. Hope you enjoyed it. It was a little different. I don't know. If you did, click the like button down below. Share it with all your friends. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Follow me Instagram, Twitter, @Nintendo Gurus. That is all. Peace out, Preston.